Book 4. Region.
Is that all?
Said Queen Calixta, peering out of her shuttle's windscreen and seeing which star constellations were nearer now that she had travelled halfway across the universe, viewing them all with secret relief.
A few measly million planets? Why, statistically there can't be more than 10 inhabited planets filled with intelligent life forms out here. I wonder which of those stars have life orbiting around them, which will be my future slaves, which house the fiercest battling but ultimately losing enemies I come to admire as worthy foes, yet eradicate the hardest, which contain aliens that will come quietly, and which will give in at the first sign of a threat. Not that it makes any difference to me, of course. All alien life falls at my feet by the end. Indeed, your magnificence, positively, absolutely, I say. What?
Said Posh.
They won't know what's hit them, said
Kosh.
What's for lunch?
Said Nosh.
Good idea, Hive.
Said Queen Calixta.
This seems like a good place for our symbolic last meal. For now we are near enough to the planet that sent that strange contraption to us that we may be spotted by their telescopes. Part of being a warrior is waiting to see what your enemy will do. I wonder what their first move will be. To run and hide, like the Hive of 1273? To come out and fight, then lose spectacularly, like the aliens of 942? To try to negotiate like the aliens of the 1700s? Or to run around doing nothing like the beings of 3218? Whatever happens will be fine by me, and a moment for all of you to treasure and tell your Hive children all about in years to come. Now, it is time for our weekly meal. Straight away, O Queen,
Said Dosh.
You're amazing,
Said Josh.
This is tasty.
Mumbled Nosh.
I wonder what they're doing down there on those unsuspecting planets.
Asked Kosh.
Doesn't our flag look good from here?
Said Queen Calixta, and led her Hive in a rousing rendition of the Agrosian national anthem.
Conquer, destroy, eliminate, attack, aggravate, annihilate, purge, submerge, eradicate, overrun, overrule, exterminate. For what makes the Agrosians truly great is always in the wondrous traits, like all that frothing in a hate, and an inability to wait. Whack them, hack them steadily, sock them, knock them fatally, stab and grab your enemy, make sure they have no chance to flee. Anyone who won't agree will be shown no mercy, for only through a killing spree will an Agrosian truly be free. Yeah. That was quite beautiful.
Said Queen Calixta emotionally.
That haunting lyrical poetry truly brings a lump to the throat. There are no beings anywhere in the universe who could possibly write anything so special, poetic, and spiritual as our glorious national anthem, full of such depth, detail, and mystery. No one can write like that nowadays. Well, perhaps only this Chuck Berry earthling. I really want a diverse detailing all my own marvellous exploits to be sung about for generations after I'm dead. Perhaps I've been wasted all these years as a ruler, despot and tyrant, but my real calling is in music. It's so much better than that raucous nonsense those aliens sent me on that disc.
Queen Calixta blinked a few times, then composed herself.
To think, we royals have been singing that song before every conquest for several million years, and we haven't been defeated once. And now, there is only one thing left to say. Do battle!
The Agrosians roared their approval. I went up to see Airglow with new eyes, promising myself that I would take heed of all I had learnt about what was going on inside the head of my poor sweetheart, and be more patient and kindly to her. She was snoozing on the bed, draped all over it like an Earth glamour model. and I flickered its steel gaze at me when I entered, however, at odds with the gentleness of the rest of her sleeping body. I had so many thoughts in my head that I wanted to say to her, but I understood now that I still loved her, that things were all going to be all right now. But Dr. Hooster had made me think I wasn't crazy, and that she was only partly crazy, as a Mrasianbrat should be, and that even if that meant I was, that we would find a way to make it work. Instead, all I could say was, Eglo, I really do love you, you know. She looked up at me and frowned.
And
Nothing, I said. I've just been thinking about our past and how much you mean to me. I'm sorry, I know I haven't spent much time with you since we moved to Decreeta. Neither of us really know anybody here, and I want us to be closer. A second eye opened. And maybe we could spend more time together from now on. Work is slowing down now. In fact, I'm surprised at how little work there is to do compared to the old days on Mars. And I meant what I said earlier. I really want to spend that spare time with you, if that's all right with you. Eglo opened a third eye.
I'm not fussed,
she said.
Do what you like. It's a free planet, or at least it will be if you get on with your work.
It wasn't as if she'd shut me out so much as shut down altogether. On my way out, Eglo asked,
Has Horace said anything to you about another party?
No, I said, I don't think so. We've been welcomed now, so I guess there won't be another one for a while.
Shame,
sighed Eglo.
I rather enjoy meeting new people. You can get so bored of old ones.
Frowning, I stole my way out of the door, for real this time, or so I meant, only to fall over a pair of removal Mrasianarts who were struggling with a large square box they set up in our room against a mirror, blocking it from view. What's this? I asked as Eglo wearily added her official family stamp to the document.
It's a food replicator machine. What does it look like? Really, Eleron, as the leader of the free world, you really aren't that bright, are you?
I ignored the insult. But I told you we weren't getting one. It's not fair. They're expensive. The ones downstairs work perfectly well. Some of the time, I said. Lots of them, in fact.
I wanted one up here,
Eglo continued.
I don't want to have to mix with a bunch of strangers I don't know. Anyway, this one is better. It actually works. Oh, and I've bought a new mirror.
Eglo whisked off a cover blanket and demonstrated the finest jewel-encrusted mirror made with the best Clandesbrod crystals. It automatically locked into her features, a filter turned on, and it immediately made her look like a glamorous film star.
Isn't it great?
She said, pouting in it and pressing a few buttons. So in a few seconds she went from looking like Marilyn Monroe to Lauren Bacall to Scarlett Johansson to Milani Chelena Jackie Nancy Bird, the most famous leading lady on Mars. I looked into the mirror and was shocked to see my features develop large sideburns and a stovepipe hat. Eglo had clearly got this mirror monstrosity on a political setting, but it was a terrible distortion of reality. Neither of us looked anything like these people. And anyway, who is to say what being presidential looks like? I was a firm believer that it didn't matter what you looked like to run a universe, only what you believed in, what you stood for, what you said, and what you did really mattered. How much does this cost? I asked, perplexed.
There's more to life than money, honey. True Mrasianarts don't care about such things. Belobrat's even less so. When you're famous, checks are for other people to pick up when they bounce. As for First Lady, I need to be at my best, and food on this planet has been somewhat lacking. Now, if you really have nothing better to do, you can put the replicator together for me. I'm quick about it. I have some serious pouting to fit in before lunchtime. It's not as if you've got anything important to do.
I will not, I said. I've told you, it's not fair on the rest of the staff if we get preferential treatment. An ordering machine ties up funds we need for other more pressing matters. Plus, as the leader of the free world, I have far more important things to do with my time than put a machine together.
Just because you can't,
Eglo sighed,
and don't have the power you think you have, there's no need to snap at me, Eleron. Honestly, it was you that said just now you had time on your hands.
I didn't mean it like that, I snapped, genuinely this time.
Oh, Eleron, I've put up with a lot during these years with you, you know. That naive innocence that's wearing a bit thin, to be honest. Living in a tiny house with you and my family had a perfectly good mansion on Mars. All I ask for is a small creature comfort like my own food machine. When is it going to end?
I held her gaze.
I mean it, Eleron. I don't like it here, and I don't want this anymore. If I don't get my way, then I walk all 6 of my legs out of here, and you'll be so lost without me. After all, you get scared talking to yourself, never mind other people.
I guess you can have your food replicator, I said in a small voice, if it will keep you happy. Heartbroken, but trying not to show it, I finally managed to stall my way downstairs. Where's Bob? I asked Horace innocently hours later. I'd been doing even more investigations into missing funds and had discovered a whole load of new discrepancies I knew he wouldn't be able to shrug off so easily this time. To my surprise, the habitat went wide, which I hadn't even known was biologically possible till then.
He's at work,
he blurted out. I shook my head. I don't think so. At least it's not in his office, or the communal areas, or even his bedroom. I've just come from there, and no one I've passed on the way have seen him either. Horace sighed.
I didn't mean at work in this job.
What do you mean? I asked, putting my best stern voice on. What other job could he have?
Horace works part-time for the Belobrat caking quarters,
said Horace.
It's very nice. You should try it.
I pulled a face. I find all Belobrat foodstuffs too rich for my taste, and very aptly too, considering how much it all costs to make. I thought a moment. Wait a minute. Wasn't it a condition of entering the intergalactic elections that we would have to declare or give up all other sources of income? I don't seem to remember reading about Bob's second job.
Oh, well, it's just a hobby, really.
Horace stuttered.
I shouldn't have mentioned it, really. Forgive that I did.
How many hours does Bob work at it? I asked. Or is he paid in cake? Horace snorted.
Hardly. He makes $9,999,999 an hour in Belerium.
I wasn't quite sure how much that was in Mrasianart money, but it sounded a lot. I really must sort out a universal monetary system sometime when things calm down, I thought to myself idly. The Universo, perhaps. Our first ever coinage, freed of all planetary references or mention of ruling classes. Though no doubt Eglo will want to have a picture of herself looking regal on each coin somewhere. Hang on, wait a minute. I was getting carried away again. How many hours does Bob work? I asked.
Officially, 5 a year.
And unofficially? I raised my half eyebrow ominously, while my companion looked more nervous still. I'll only find out about it from some other source. And don't worry, Horace, I won't say I learnt all this from you. I know he has some sort of hold over you, but for the life of me I can't think what.
As many hours as it takes. Bob gets all sorts of juicy trade deals for his family business,
stuttered Horace.
You see, officially there is no link with his family firm, so he's free to recommend them in every trade deal going, and put in a cushy word for them. Every time he sells a grateful, he gets a percentage of the deal.
I would like to have said I was shocked, but to be honest, nothing about that Belobrat would shock me anymore. How long has this been going on? I asked.
Not long,
said Horace thoughtfully.
Maybe a century?
A century? I exploded.
Yes,
said Horace.
Or two, I can't remember. They really are very nice cakes.
Aha! Smiling as sweetly as I dared, I leant forward, put my wing on Horace's wing, and said to him, Now, Vice President, you're not in any trouble, for I understand you have no control over these things, but I do appreciate honesty in my members of staff. Do you happen to have a cake addiction at all?
No, not really, sir,
muttered Horace.
But that is to say, not much of an addiction, not as bad as some.
But does Bob provide you with it? I asked.
Yes,
said Horace, shamefaced.
Most of us in the IPO, in fact. They really are exceedingly good cakes.
Are you addicted? I asked again, as kindly as I could.
No, of course not,
Horace spluttered.
What would a happy dad be doing eating a Belobrat dish? We mostly eat worms.
He slowed down and took one look at my face.
All right then, yes. It's expensive stuff, this cake is. It would take months of my salary to afford one of the bigger cakes. Sometimes I hate the way the IPO is set up, with each of us getting our salary from our respective planets. The Belobrats always get paid more than the rest of us put together. At least if I get paid in cake, I get to experience some of that luxurious lifestyle I would never have at home.
Don't I know it, I agreed, fully aware that Mraz paid the lowest salaries of all now that the Earth was no longer in the IPO. Now I need to know, does this impair your ability to do your job?
No,
said Horace, who then thought for a minute.
That is to say, I don't know, sir. I haven't been without it since joining the civil service 2 years ago. You won't tell anyone, will you, sir? Whispered Horace. I'm a habitat. Our species aren't supposed to get addicted to anything. That sort of intensity is just not in our natures. I'd be a laughing stock back home.
your secret's safe with me, I smiled. I really do need to speak to Bob, though.
He'll turn up when he wants to,
said Horace airily.
Probably just so you don't want him to. He's that kind of an alien.
Unable to find Bob, I had returned to work in my office and started work again, though I was by now so low on things to do that I had taken to reading all the boring text on documents I had already signed. Horace walked in, back to his normal self after the revelations of earlier.
Doris is on the universal phone line too, sir,
He said.
She wants a quick word.
Oh, I said, at last. Is she rejoining the IPO?
Not exactly,
said Horace, handing me a phone.
As I know you'll be busy for the next hour or so, I'll go to lie down in my office.
Hello? I said into the phone, more nervously than I suppose the leader of the free world should. Sorry, I said as I heard some mumbling at the other end. You'll have to speak up. The line isn't very good. Alien rubbish, the voice down the other end agreed. Mechions might think they're the greatest technological geniuses of all time, but it's shoddy workmanship, not like on Earth. We really know how to build stuff. Or at least import it and put our name on the labels. Nobody does that as well as us. Oh yes, bosh, bish, bash. All my calls to other planets have worked fine, I said. Are you sure it's not on your end? And the Mechions provided the Earth with all sorts of gadgets. I've seen them. You're the biggest market, in fact. Well, not anymore, said Boris. We've got rid of the blasted things. Brexit means Brexit, you know. Pardon, I said. Peace exit. We want out of the IPO. I know, I replied. I saw your bus on the news. It was a Mechion bus you were using, in fact, wasn't it? Doris ignored me. We need to rush our contracts through so that we can start our own business trades with individual planets instead of going through you all the time and create a new Brexit border in outer space. I trust that won't take long. It will take years, I said truthfully. Maybe decades. You can't have an imaginary border in space. That's stupid. If you really want to leave, though, we better start straight away. If you could get a delegation to me with your plans, I can put some of my team onto it here and... No time, said Doris bluntly. The way I see it is we have a whack-ready deal that only needs your signature and it's all done. You come over and visit us and get it sorted as soon as you can. Look here, I spluttered. We have plenty of time, so why not do it properly? I can't help the promises you made to people. It will take as long as it takes to be right for both of us, and in the meantime you'll be getting all our old help as normal. I'll even freeze the Earth's account if you like, so you can pay us later, at a lower rate. No dice, said Doris. I want an election next week, and to tell everyone I've finalised everything. I don't think politics works like that, ma'am, I said, laughing. Things take their own sweet time. There's nothing you or I can do to control the outcome of things. Nonsense, Doris said. Just because you've heard me called a bloody difficult earthling by the Belobrats doesn't mean I am one. That's prejudice, that is. Sort it, Eleron. What's your job? She slammed the phone down on me. So much for being on the phone for an hour, I thought. Why was I forever clearing up other people's messes? I decided to go and wake my vice president up so I didn't have to face the problem alone. Just then Bob walked in. I groaned. Just who I didn't want to see, at least not right then. Why wasn't he there when I wanted him? But I was always in when he wanted to see me.
Eleron,
He beamed.
My favourite alien president. I trust you're not doing anything too important. Just Earth stuff? Oh, good. Listen, Horace and I have been talking. We both agree with your plan to travel around the universe. I think more than that, though. You deserve a rest. Go and have a holiday on some planet far, far, far away. For a long time. In fact, didn't you just call the doctor out? Have a medical timeout? We'll cope without you while you're gone.
I don't need a rest, I said, pointing towards my emptying tray. I need more work to do. Proper work, not messing around with empty trade agreements or giving speeches to the publicity department. Even my plan to build commemorative peace statues seemed to have mysteriously stalled since it went through your department. So I took the liberty of retrieving it back this morning while you were out and sending it out to all the 9 planets.
You did what?
Bob's 3 faces were turning different shades of scarlet, purple and grey. It was quite fun to watch.
Without my say-so?
I shrugged in that annoyingly nonchalant way I'd learned from Horace. You weren't here. You were busy at your other job, whatever it might be, and you can't slow the wheels of progress. That was a shame, actually, as I have several important things I want to discuss with you.
Oh,
said Bob, backtracking.
I mean, I was just about to okay it all. I think that bit of paper is sitting at the bottom of my desk somewhere. I'll go and do it now if you like.
Why, I said. You're only the boss of a military department. Why do all my documents have to pass through you?
It's the way the system is set up, I'm afraid.
Bob said.
Nothing I can do about it. I used to be quite high up when it was all Belobrats here, so everything is automatically referred up to me. There's no hurry, is there? It's not like it's something all that important.
Well, you may have been important back then, but I'm president now, I said, trying to raise myself to my full height, which still seems somehow inadequate when set against this Belobrat. Only Horace at most should see my paperwork, unless it directly concerns your department. And yes, it is very important to me, and many zillions around the universe too. Bob drew back as if working out how to play the rest of his conversation. It was as if I could see the cogs whirring in his brain as the idea passed through all three heads for final confirmation. Finally he exploded in his old familiar style.
You see this written on this form?
Said Bob more threateningly.
For your 3 pairs of eyes only? Have you counted yours lately? Until that's changed, then nothing has changed, whether you're president or not.
I don't care what the paper says. I'm the president, I said, raising my voice to match him. I can have you fired. Bob stared at me.
No, you can't,
he said worryingly quietly. I think I can. I'm rather in the mood for a firing right now, I said, reaching for the phone. Bob stopped me.
If you do,
he said, looking me squarely in the eyes,
be prepared for the consequences, Eleron. Without me, you'd lose the support of all the people who voted for the old Belobrat regime, maybe even the whole of our planet Hemisphere, who would certainly pull out of the IPO if I told them to. And how would a second split with the IPO a week into your job look for all the people who voted you, based on your speeches of cooperation and togetherness?
He sneered.
You don't think these things through, Eleron?
Yes, I do, I said. Nowhere in my speeches does it say anything about working with people who are unreasonable and quasi-criminal. Don't forget I still have all that proof of the bribery going on tucked safely away if I need it. Bob lowered his eyes. And a new allegation over a second job delivering addictive cakes around the universe. What would the voting public say if word of that got out then, eh?
You are only here on my say-so,
said Bob in a low voice. I tried another tap myself. Bob, I said, like it or not, we're both here now. We should be working together, showing everyone out there that even if you are completely different species, from completely different backgrounds, with completely contrasting personalities, but you can still work together. Being alone is lonely, remember? So let's do that. Don't delay my policies anymore. And I'm not going to take any holidays, even though I do take a short talking tour on a few planets.
No,
he said bluntly.
I'm not interested in working for you. My need for you is over.
Well, I said, half laughing, need or not, I'm your president, so work together we are. The Belobrat stood up, arched his back and said,
We'll see,
with one head, while the others laughed. Look, I said, as much to myself as Bob, I only want to see the best in the universe, to see us all work together. Why does that foot seem to keep bringing out the worst in people round here? Bob got up to leave.
Because it's impossible, that's why. The universe is a rotten, crooked place where the only people who survive it are those who know how to work the system. Now take the holiday, or one will be forced upon you. Permanently.
On leaving, he smashed my desk so hard one of the legs came off, creating a noise loud enough that a giant squeak could be heard from under the desk of the diplomatic office next door. Eglo and I were enjoying a rare moment alone together, up in our room. I had been trying to tell her all about Bob, but she just repeated his name dreamily while staring out the window. Finally, I took her by the wing as I gave a speech I had been rehearsing in my head for some time. Eglo, things are not going well here. I really think the time might have come to go back to Mars and step down. There's too much work to do here, but I don't have enough power to do it. I fear the Belobrats will never truly let their power go, and the time isn't yet right for my vision of the universe. I see that now. It might be different if we had some sort of incident that would make people see how important unity is to the universe, but I can't see that happening, and I don't see how I can make people see it. If nothing else, perhaps going back to Mars will help bring us closer together again, like the olden days.
Nonsense,
scoffed Eglo.
I'm not going back to that old way of life. I might not have much to do here, but I'm somebody special here. I'm important. They might not see that yet, but I am. After all, I'm married to the Intergalactic President, and who else in this universe can say that?
You mean you want to stay? I said, surprised. I thought you hated it here.
That's true,
she said.
Only because I have nothing to do. Not like Mars, where I got to hold all those society lunches. Here I've only had one lot of Belobrats over, and that was a disaster. Once you retire, though, Eleron, and we go back to Mars, I will be able to hold so many dinner parties, and everyone will want to meet me. My name will be in lights, everywhere.
I tried to break the news to her, as gently as possible. Airglow, I think you know deep down, as well as I do, that I'm not going to be in power for very long. Things are rapidly disintegrating, the Belobrats hold all the power, and I refuse to give them what they want, so they'll in all likelihood get rid of me at the first opportunity. It means disgrace back home, I'm afraid. I'm sorry, I really did want better, for both of us.
No,
Said Airglow, panicking.
We'll try harder. I'll work with you. We'll do more interviews. I'll hold more lunches. We'll work extra hard. I'll help you with our speeches. You have to stay in power, Eleron. It's very important that you win. We'll do whatever it takes and be aggressive when it comes to peace.
In a quieter voice she continued.
Please, I don't just mean it for my sake. Of course I worry about that too. The universe needs your vision. The Belobrats are very courageous, but they don't see the universe the way you do, and somebody needs to, or will only end up running things the same corrupt way. You might annoy me sometimes, Eleron, but I know you only want the best for everyone. I know I can't say the same for any other politician I know.
I smiled at Airglow warmly. My dear, I'd given up hope of hearing you talk like that, the way you did on Mars. I thought you didn't share my vision any longer.
Not at all, Eleron,
She replied.
It's just that I didn't see room for me inside it anymore, and I felt slighted. I'm sorry.
Me too, I said. Politics was much more fun when we were running it together, as a team. You the assertive one, me as the passive one, you the face of our vision and me the heart. It's not too late. We could give it one more try, with you as a more active participant this time. To my surprise, though, my wife just shook her head.
No, Eleron, I couldn't take all that responsibility. Things were different when it was just Mars, where I've always been an outsider anyway, but here, having all those eyes staring at me, well, it seems to do something funny to me and bring out my worst side. I couldn't really go through with it. You're the courageous one, not me.
I'm astonished. But you're the one who's always pushing me to do things,
Yes,
said Airglow.
I pushed you into doing things because it was easier than me doing them. Plus, I really did believe in you, Eleron.
She puts her wing on mine.
Whatever happens, you tried. No one can take that away from you. Give it a few days and see what happens, though. Maybe the universe needs you more than it thinks it does.
Behold!
Said Queen Calixta scornfully, staring at a green-blue-brown planet the Agrosians had never seen before.
Right where their directions said they would be. As their so-called music suggested, this is clearly a less than intelligent life form, not least the amount of pollution they seem to have caused on their own planet, rather than colonising other worlds to do that sort of thing for them. Also, there are no patrol ships, no security, no defence, nothing to stop us walking in. It is almost as if they want us to take them over. Presumably someone will have recognised us by now.
The space shuttle passed through the Earth's inner atmosphere in the blink of an eye.
There are multiple continents on this world,
Said Queen Calixta with a frown.
It makes the whole planet look most untidy. Seeing as we don't know where we have to go, let's just try for the nearest bit of land.
The navigator Mosh moved in closer until the mysterious brown, green, blue world was fully in the shuttle's windows. Queen Calixta's eyes got a round building near a river that, unbeknown to her, was the Globe Theatre.
That must be a shuttle landing site, though it is a bit small. Maybe the humans will be small and easy to catch too.
Queen Calixta said to the Agrosians, who all nodded back at her. The shuttle landed, accidentally disintegrating the building in the process.
Cheap and shoddy workmanship, these humans will be easy to conquer,
said Queen Calixta, and the Agrosians all nodded again. When the shuttle came to a stop, Queen Calixta silently walked to the door and turned back to survey the damage. It seemed extensive. Oh well, it wasn't as if it was a military base or anything important. Calling the Agrosians to her, she told them to prepare their weapons, telling them
to kill or to stun, that is the question, whether 'tis nobler to destroy the planet with slings and arrows along the way, or to allow their rulers to pass the world over to us for their outrageous fortune.
Deciding to keep to the protocol of having their king or queen hand everyone over to them, they could always come back and destroy the primitive native life forms later. Calixta exited left out into the open air, pursued by a hive of Agrosians. Recollecting past crossbows of several humans who had stopped to gawk at her. She stepped on one of them. She stopped another of them. "Gosh," the human said.
"Yes,"
said one of the Agrosians.
"do I know you? But today."
What? said the human, blinking. You're aliens. Oh, and most of you are so cute and little and red and fluffy. Oh, I just want to cuddle you and take you home, especially this one."
"Hands off me, you primitive monkey,"
said Gosh.
"Put me down this instant. I'm one of Queen Calixta's fiercest warriors, and hope someday to prove my worth to her and be chosen as a royal companion for
Gosh stabbed the human with his spear. "Ouch," said the human. "Well, you look cute anyway. I won't be making that mistake again."
"Nor any of your kind puny humans,"
said Gosh. "Puny? Well, that's a laugh," said the human, who was 3 times his height, dangling Gosh in the air by his arms and holding his spear away.
"Well,"
said Queen Calixta,
"puny or not, he is indeed a deadly alien warrior, as am I, the most ferocious tyrant you will ever meet in your sad existence, human. There are clearly more things than are dreamt of in Earth's philosophy. They can understand us too. It must be some form of translator circuit. Funny though, these beings don't seem intelligent enough to have created the circuits themselves."
"No," said the man. "I mean, you're aliens. You're not one of the 10 known species."
"Certainly not,"
Queen Calixta said dismissively.
"We've never been to this part of space before. It's so small and vulgar, you can barely even see your sky up from this planet. It's absolutely freezing. And what's with the acid rain falling from your atmosphere? Have you really not learned to conquer the weather yet on this backward planet?"
The highball laughed scornfully. A rather well-dressed earthling went up to her on the shoulder and pointed to the parking meter. "Will you be staying here long? The going rate's gone up, I'm afraid. It's inflation. It will be worth it, though, to get Brexit done. Bah!" Queen Calixta got cross.
"No, we won't be staying long, just long enough to conquer and enslave you all."
She turned to the first native.
"And you say there are 10 species for us to colonise?"
The man nodded, dumbfounded.
"That's funny. There used to be 10 species in our part of the universe too in my grandparents' day. None of the other 9 put up much of a fight though. They all gave way in the end, as will all of you puny beings before too long, so that only we and a few of the best captives who were turned to slaves are left. Now wherefore art thou, leader?"
The man pointed towards Downing Street, and Queen Calixta strode off down the road, her Agrosians all struggling to keep up with her long regal strides.
Universal entry AB 54493649147. RAS Universal Systems Key Code. President Eleron. Headline: Alien objects spotted in Earth's orbit. Retrieved from Universal Records Office.
Horace and I were settling down that afternoon for a coordinated group session in the canteen when there was a knock at the front door. Startled, for no one had been expected, and arriving without an official appointment was frowned upon in the interests of governmental transparency, I happened to be nearest the door, and rather than stand on ceremony, thought it best if I went to open it. An uncharacteristically unconfident-looking Belobrat was standing outside in what looked like a grey human overcoat. Looking round nervously to see if he'd been followed, he nodded at me and tried to walk past. "Just one moment. Who are you?" I asked, temporarily stopping him.
"Greetings,"
whispered the stranger, looking down towards me from his great height.
"Go and tell your master I'm here. I'm a very important Belobrat, and I have news of the utmost importance, which can only be delivered to the right persons. I have very bravely and courageously, with no thought of my own safety, travelled many light years at speed to bring you this very important message. Your lives might be about to change forever. Now fetch me your master, young servant, and be quick about it."
"But I'm..." Sensing that I wasn't going to get anywhere fast, I went and got Horace. Belatedly, came panting towards me out of breath.
"You really shouldn't open the doors yourself, sir."
"Well," said Horace, who had got there first and was escorting our Belobrat visitors to a seat.
"If we'd waited for you, our visitor would have died of hypothermia. It's a good job Eleron opened the door instead of waiting for you." "You're Eleron?"
said the Belobrat to me, boggling.
"Are you sure? You don't look like the intergalactic presidential type. You're very, I want to say, insignificant looking."
"Well," I said, "we've never really had a full intergalactic president before, only Belobrats, so I guess they all look like me for now. Do you really not know what I look like? My election must have made the news. The stranger shook his head.
Our bulletins only really talk about things that concern Belobrat. Our planet Helisphere has never really had any reason to be in contact with you till now either, given our central place in the galaxy. I mean, peace just kind of looks after itself, doesn't it? It's not exactly newsworthy. Or at least it does on our planet. Maybe that's just because our planet is the greatest. Why, I remember in...
Our visitor looked up to see us all staring at him. Embarrassed, which was another emotion I'd never seen in a Belobrat before, he asked the three of us present to submit to an official scanner he had in his pocket, which measured our eye retinas, took our fingerprints, and measured both the notation and rotation of the cricketing of my wingtips to see what key they were in. At last everything seemed to be in order, and he got some papers out of his very human-looking briefcase.
Sorry about that, sir,
He said in a hushed voice.
We can't be too careful. We don't want this knowledge to fall into alien hands.
But we're all aliens here. There's no such thing as resident life anymore. Who are you, anyway? The Belobrat grinned.
FBI.
FBI? Your clothes look human, but you're clearly a Belobrat if you don't mind me saying. Or are you a fellow hybrid?
Not that FBI.
Our visitor looked hurt.
The other FBI. The important one. The Federation of Belobrat Investigators.
Horace, and I looked at each other blankly.
Look,
The Belobrat continued.
we're such a hugely successful undercover organisation, but no one else has heard of us, okay? Now, I've been doing hugely crucial work in disguise of the Earth FBI, just to check that everything is under control.
And is it? I asked.
No, we have reason to believe that. In the days before Endurance, when most life forms still barely recognise each other's existence, the Earthlings sent out a craft of some kind out into deeper space.
Why?
Well, to make contact, I suppose, but the humans didn't seem to know where any aliens were, so they sent it the wrong way, out into deep space.
That makes sense, I said, still a touch defensive about half of my ancestry. If you don't know where to shine a light in the darkness to find something, you might as well shine it one way as any. I do believe this is the space shuttle I was telling you about, Horace, the one with Chuck Berry attached.
Oh, him again,
Sniffed Horace.
Oh, yes, I remember now. We knew all about that shuttle.
Said Horace.
It was centuries ago, long before we knew there were any other life forms out there for certain. The shuttle passed happily on its way out past the universe.
And you didn't think to look at it? The first thing would have come from an alien world. Your two planets could have made contact centuries ago. It was my turn to boggle at Horace, still trying to come to terms with the very big differences between our two species. He just shrugged his shoulders.
We thought it was a bit odd, but well, it wasn't exactly in our orbit. It didn't seem to be addressed to us or anything, so we just let it pass. We took a look at it though. It had these weird things on the side, these ugly looking creatures that couldn't possibly be real, and all these squiggly lines. It was all so primitive we thought it was an alien homework project. It was most neighbourly if we looked the other way and waited till they grew up and sent us a proper message before we made contact with them.
The Belobrat investigator leaned forward in his seat.
Those markings were everything an alien race might need to know about the human race. What they look like, what chemistry they are made up of, what culture they enjoy, even where they live.
Well, I said, easing back into my chair, it all sounds a good idea to me. It's just like a friendly intergalactic greeting card. We were probably hoping to get one back. We just sent it in the wrong direction. By the sound of things, forgot to send a stamped address shuttle for a reply. No harm in that. My colleagues, particularly the security guard, were wincing in pain, so I concluded rather more meekly. Is there? The Belobrat leaned forward so far I thought he was going to fall out of his chair.
Well, it's not common knowledge yet, but the humans have just got a reply.
Oh, I said, that's nice. Bit pointless though, given that we've all made contact with each other centuries ago, mind you. Which of the other 9 planets of the known universe received it?
That's just it, sir. It wasn't one of the planets in the known universe that sent it. Instead, we have reason to believe that it was an 11th planet from the unknown universe, and the inhabitants of it are heading this way.
We all raised our eyebrows at this, even those of us that found this genetically impossible. But that means, I said, turning white.
Exactly, sir.
The Belobrat looked grave. We have a new neighbour, one we know nothing about, a new race with cultures we can learn from, one who can join the peace delegation. Oh, this is brilliant news. We must send out a welcoming committee at once. I beamed away at my neighbours, but Horace stopped me in my tracks with a chilling thought.
A neighbour we know nothing about. You might be about to kill us. After all, we don't know what stage of their evolution they've reached yet. It's common knowledge now that our 10 species have shared their past history with each other freely, but all beings seem to go through a period of interplanetary aggression before they reach full civilization, whether short like the Mrasianarts, long like the humans, or somewhere between like the others. What if these new beings are so on the long side that they haven't established peace yet?
I thought about this, but still in denial, concluded. Well, they must be fairly civilised if they sent a message back. That bodes well. You can't have a species with the intelligence to send messages out to the stars and the capacity to blow people up at the same time. That's just ridiculous. Horace shuddered.
Hardly. From what I recall of Earth history, there are multiple wars raging in the decade they sent that message into space. Also, we are only measuring these new aliens by what happens in our part of the universe. What if, by an accident of fate or geography, they happen to develop space travel during their aggressive phase? We didn't all evolve at the same speed. Don't forget, you already know just how much variety there is just in our portion of the known universe. What must they be like from a different side of the cosmos compared to us?
I stopped in my tracks. That isn't a very encouraging conclusion. I thought you were meant to be the laid-back one.
No, sir,
said Horace.
but I'm willing to bet there's nothing we can do about it even so we shouldn't get too concerned about it.
Turning to our visitor, he added,
Surely this is all Earth business now, and nothing to do with us.
The Belobrat looked grave and lowered his voice to a whisper.
The problem is, sir, according to the reports I received, the reason we think they are heading this way is that they sent a craft in return. Oh,
said Horace.
did it contain markings, like the Earth one? No,
Said the Belobrat.
it contained a flag, and a speech which, although the clandestine translator circuits couldn't fully identify it, seemed to be a declaration of war. Thus we have reason to believe that there were beings inside the craft.
I went whiter. But you're mistaken. You must be. The humans have said nothing to me.
To be fair, sir, they're not in the peace delegation anymore. They don't have to tell you anything. As Mrasianbrat put it, this is really their problem, not an intergalactic one. But we thought you ought to know because of the impact this will surely have on everyone else. The humans sent that spacecraft off before they knew about any other species, so for all the unknown combatants know, they think they're the only ones out here. But what will happen when they find out about the rest of us? Will they colonise us too?
I felt a chill go down my spine. You still might be wrong, I croaked more hopefully than I feel. I mean, the humans have no reason to share this knowledge with you either.
Not officially, no, but I'm good at blending in, I am. Why, I was the best in my secrecy class. It was an open secret I was a Belobrat who was going to go furthest in his year, and everyone congratulated me on it, including the humans I've been spying on. They all seemed to buy my story that I was a human, but I'd had plastic surgery to look like a Belobrat, because they were the greatest aliens in the whole universe. Well, my job is done now. I've passed on my information. Goodbye, sir. I must get back before the solar windstorm comes.
Ignoring our grateful thanks and offer of sustenance, our visitor left, with one last half-nod to Horace so small I nearly missed it. Showed him to the door, while Horace and I looked at each other. He's mistaken, I said falteringly. He has to be, otherwise the alternative is too horrid to contemplate. Horace asked me.
So what do we do if it turns out to be true?
We don't do anything yet, I said. I need to know if this report is true before I start alarming people. Is it possible to get an intelligent report of our own? Horace snorted.
What? From here? The other side of the galaxy? And on our budget?
He was interrupted by another knock at the door, and a second worried stranger squeezed through our door and walked into our headquarters, swiftly followed by our security guard.
I'm sorry, sir. I couldn't stop it.
Wheezed Durer, but he was interrupted by our visitor, a clandesprod, who shook me by the wing with one arm while holding out a business card with the second and saluting with the third for good measure.
President Eleron, I presume? I am from the CIA, the Clandestine Intervention Agency, and I have just come on an urgent mission from Earth.
Not another one,
said Horace, ushering our next guest into a chair that was several sizes too small for her.
The Earth must be full of secret agents.
Well, yes, said the clandesprod, getting stuck and pretending not to notice.
It has been for centuries come to that. As the newest species of the ten still, we need to know everything we can about the humans, and it's very easy to blend in after all. All the humans are so insular, they never noticed a thing. Anyway, I've been working undercover, infiltrating the human spy network.
You're not the most human-like being I've ever seen, I say. How did you manage that?
Oh, easy, our visitor beamed. I just told them I had a glandular condition, and not to mention my weight. Nobody ever queried it.
On the extra arm?
Horace raised an eyebrow.
I told them I was being a donor, for a friend. No one suspected, even the Belobrat, who was so clearly undercover there too. Anyway, we have reason to believe that an alien craft has been spotted in Earth's orbit. We also have reason to believe that it might be aggressive and hostile to our side of the universe. Here is a picture of the craft.
And Horace and I both found ourselves staring at an odd little shuttle with its flag attachment, clearly not created by any of the 10 known species, all hostile angles and ragged edges, born of some completely unknown metallic element that had been bruised and battered into shape by several primitive hands, rather than hewn with delicacy and finesse, like most of our universe. The Clandesprod continued.
Of course, our report might be wrong, sirs, but we thought it part of our civic duty that this was brought to your attention as soon as possible. You don't seem very surprised.
I waved a wing at the Belobrat shuttle taking off. It could just be seen through the window, and recovering from the shock, tried my best to sound presidential. Your colleagues at the FBI seem to agree with your information. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Both your reports are highly valuable to us. The Clandesprod looked a little sad, as if she'd been beaten to revealing the surprise of a lifetime. But before she could say anything else, there was a third knock at the door.
Who can this be now?
Asked Horace.
MI5,
Said a Mechion at the door.
a Mechion 5 investigator with important news for President Eleron.
How did? I began.
Easy.
Said a Mechion.
I did the only logical thing, disguise myself as an Earth tree. Can I come in?
Universal entry AB 54493649165. Browse Universal Systems key code. President Eleron. Headline: Cabinet meeting. Retrieved from the Universal Records Office.
Right, group meeting, I cried as loudly as I could. Everyone assemble now. 9 faces all peered round their doors at me, and even Eglo came out of our bedroom to see what was going on.
Not you, Lawrence!
Cried Horace in a panic.
We can't have the wider public knowing about this yet, and I know you'll like the secret. Go and sit in your office.
The Clandesprod ran off. Right, we have it from 3 different sources, but there is an alien vehicle either on or around Earth, I announced, and I explained everything that our visitors had just explained to us.
Which aliens?
Said alike.
And who in their right mind would go to Earth, the universe's poverty planet? That's utterly illogical.
Aliens, I said. A hitherto unknown race, possibly from the unknown part of the galaxy. This caused quite a stir in the room. I propose that we go to Earth now to meet them all, as a unit, so we can see for ourselves what they want, I said, to give them a proper welcome.
You sure that's wise, sir?
Said Horace.
They might be hostile. Who is that going to leave here in charge if something happens to the shuttle? And this is an earthly matter now, nothing to do with us.
I thought you wanted me and Eglo to leave a few minutes ago, I asked him.
That was then, sir.
He said.
Things have changed a little since then.
Well, I replied, I'm going. Who else is with me? There was another murmur at this.
Why would anyone go to Earth if they didn't have to?
Snorted Bob.
They're not in the IPO. Who cares what they get up to with aliens in their spare time?
Yes,
Said alike.
the logical thing is to ignore it. If they're here to invade the Earth, they might not even know about the rest of us. We might all be safe.
We're a peace organisation,
Concluded Durr.
not a war one. The Earth will have to solve its own problems.
Speaking officially, has there ever been an official request for an official sent in yet officially?
Considered Cody.
No,
Laughed Horace.
those Earthlings are still ignorant as to what's going on under their noses, as far as I know. We do have noses, I take it, Earthlings?
He concluded more hesitantly, looking at me. I waited for the hubbub to end and replied, You all make valid points, but I don't think you realise what's at stake here. This isn't a matter that will just go away if we ignore it, or can be left for someone else to solve. You are precisely the beings elected to solve something important like this. You are all right that officially we have no links to the Earth anymore. But we are neighbours, and what happens to one of us happens to all of us, whether we've signed a bit of paper that joins us together or not.
That's maybe,
said Horace.
but we have to think about the people we're in charge of. If these aliens come and attack the Earth, then maybe they won't feel the need to attack the rest of us. It's all Earth's fault for sending our probe out into space anyway before we were ready. We've put all our lives in jeopardy. And is the Earth really such a great loss to the universe? Is it really our job to care for them? I mean, it's not as if many of them voted for us.
There was a murmuring and a nod of heads at this, especially from the aliens who have multiple ones. I, on the other hand, was left dumbfounded. Stop this prejudice against the humans. They're just a young species wet behind the ears and tail. Didn't you all go through that stage in the history of your home planet when you stopped thinking in terms of countries and started thinking globally? None of our civilizations would have agreed to join a universal organisation either at their age, when we hadn't even explored our own solar system.
But why should we help the Earthlings?
Drawled alike.
It's their fault. They sent the shuttle in the first place and put us all in danger, and they aren't even in the peace treaty anymore. They have no rights to expect us to protect them anymore.
I know, but they sent that shuttle out without quite knowing what they were doing. They just wanted to make contact with any species that might be alive. I don't know if they actually expected to find any, I explained, hoping my explanation didn't sound as feeble out loud as it seemed in my head. And they're the new kids round here still. You must remember what it was like on Mekion, back in the old days, when you were fighting amongst yourselves.
Maybe,
shot back alike,
but our fights were purely logical, to gain something the other side had that we needed. We didn't go drawing attention to ourselves by sending out a flaming big machine with flashing lights on top of it, a map of where to find us, some truly cringe-worthy music, and a bunch of new photos. A map? They might as well have put up a sign saying, "Come and conquer us now, we're easy prey." Well, if that shuttle had got near Mekion centuries ago, I'm not sure we wouldn't have invaded them ourselves, just to teach them a lesson.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing, so ploughed on in my response. Of course it's our duty to care for everyone, whether they voted for us or not. We're in charge of the universe now. There's no one else. It's our duty to take command. Maybe, if we meet with them, then we can make sure that they don't attack any of us. I looked out at the sea of sullen faces, my eloquence escaping me. Please? Asked Jane from under the table. Said Bob quickly.
Not anymore. This penny-pinching regime of Elerons has crushed them all. He thought saving money was a bigger priority than keeping us safe.
That's not true, I spat back. You know it isn't.
Then where is this army, Eleron?
There isn't one, as you know full well, I said, to audible gasps. Care to tell them why?
Budget cuts and your demand for a costly peace,
Said Bob.
which Eleron clearly knew about. He's the president. It's up to him to do something about it. And now, because of his oversight, we've been left unprotected.
No, it wasn't like that, I start, but I'm drowned out by the panic in the room.
I don't want to die,
Said Jane plainly.
Nor me. And anyway, I'm too important.
Said Bob.
Yes,
Said Drew.
it was the humans' own space shuttle that caused all this. These humans brought this on themselves.
Remember all those nasty things they said about us down the years?
Added alike.
they're not even paying us.
Added Oda Beggar.
The first party has hitherto cut all ties with the second party and has removed itself from any contractual obligations forthwith,
Exclaimed Cody.
Duca, I say so.
Demanded Moldovus. Horace chimed in.
Eleron, we all know why you feel such a closeness to the Earth, because of your ancestry. But we don't have that, any of us. Don't risk our lives over some rogue genetics you have the misfortune to endure.
Listen to me, I said, as angry and as far away from peace as I had ever been. The universe feels at a turning point, as if it's fragmenting and unravelling, but we're all going our separate ways again after a few hundred years of rubbing shoulders and eyeing each other up. You all sensed it too. It's in every single one of your election speeches, and you all had different solutions to it. But the one that won across the universe was mine, the idea that we can work together to solve our problems, and that no one, not one member of one solitary species, gets left behind in the name of progress. Well, this is our generation's turning point, the moment when the universe comes together in the face of a new threat, and somehow, some way, solves the dilemmas and difficulties put before us. To do that, though, we need to work together. So come with me, do your jobs, let's show these aliens what a united solid front they're up against, and help me save the universe.
No,
Said Horace simply.
it's too risky. We're not going. Any honest, and that's final.
What? I cried in disbelief. That's not for you to say. If anyone has the final word, it's me. I'm the president. The IPO delegates looked at each other shiftily, and all stared at Horace. He dropped his voice and pulled me in towards him, conspiratorially.
No,
He repeated.
my word is final. If Huey Bob agrees with it, of course.
I looked at Bob, bewildered.
Well,
Bob Belobrat coughed, looking as unsure of himself as I'd ever seen a Belobrat.
we just don't want you messing everything up. Horace is much better at things like that than you. He understands what's going on in the universe more than you do. He's more practical, presidential, woke.
Horace? I laughed in a hollow way. Woke? He's not woke. He's always on the verge of sleep. He has no idea what's going on in the universe beyond his bed. I'm the one with the real learning of understanding the universe from a different angle none of you others seem to understand in your selfish ambition for your own planet. And I'm the boss. He just follows the orders I give him. I looked at him puzzled. Don't you? Horace stared ahead, blankly.
Well, no.
Said Bob placidly.
He's the one we all follow and check with first. All the good ideas were Horace's. You're just a figurehead. But surely you knew all this already. I mean, what do you actually do all day? Sitting in your office signing papers and answering letters from nobodies and making the odd media appearance and okaying statues? Coming in here and messing up our roles. I mean, what did you think you were ever meant to do? Horace is the one with the clear guidance. He understands that we have to look after ourselves first, planet by planet, and stuff the weaker ones that can't look after themselves. He's a true leader who gets things done. You just talk a lot.
That's not being cruel, just practical.
Added a light.
Such is politics.
The others looked a little unhappier at this, but nobody actually argued. You mean, I said, the hugeness of this revelation still overtaking me, that it was you who got the IPO team working together all along, not me? Horace shrugged.
I may have asked the others to pretend to go along with your ideas at times, but really they were answering to me.
But I thought, I hoped, I stammered. You mean I was the boss in name only, and they were just following your orders?
Yes, we were,
Bob said.
We all know you're not a real politician. No, I'm sorry, but it's true. We all know it. Most of the population know it, except the misguided ones who believed you and actually voted for you. You're too emotional, Eleron, not detached enough to make tough decisions. You're good only for sound bites and giving people what they want to hear, but what they know deep down is impossible to have. You were elected for being nice. To the electorate, nice is good and appealing, but you can't be nice in politics. You got the job thanks to some good speeches and general curiosity as to what a hybrid being so far out of his depth might be like in charge of a whole universe. We all know deep down that politics isn't made up of fine speeches and hope. A lot of the time you were just in the way, which is why we were trying so hard to get rid of you. Oh, you had one or two good ideas as well, Eleron. We were all quite happy not to have had as much of a fiddly paperwork that goes with being president. You were much better at that than Horace. You kept losing it. And all that meeting people is so exhausting. To be honest, I can't say I'm very fond of the rest of the species, only my own. I think most beings in the universe would say that, but not you. And what made you useful to us? So basically, yes, I was in charge of the team before you got there, and I'm in charge of them now, whatever the sign on your office door says. Everyone knew except you. Even Aglo suspected it, I think, from some of the very interesting conversations we've been having lately. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, Eleron. We were going to keep it a secret from you until your poll ratings started slumping and then dump you, blaming you for everything. But we need a true president now, not a pretend one. And right now I have to look at more important things than her feelings.
My head was spinning as I listened to all this. It wasn't just my world that was falling apart. It was my universe. But I won an election. Not you, me. You have no right. Bob snorted.
Election results? They don't count for a lot. I got my position by lying through my teeth about all the good work I was going to do. Didn't mean any of it, of course. No politician ever does. Plus,
Added Horace.
we may have manipulated the figures. Oh, just a little. You were still doing really well. You were never going to compete with us experienced politicians. I would have thought that would have been obvious. I mean, who outside Mraz has ever heard of you?
Why? I asked desperately, my heart pounding. Who would let you do that?
No one to stop us, Bob said. It was important that we be seen to change and get away from the olden days of corruption under the Belobrat. Everybody knows we're the best at governing, though. Therefore, we have to win for the good of everybody, and all the elections to come. We just pretended to lose this one. Horace here was the outright winner, and he was good enough to go along with my plan. Also, it was useful to have a candidate that appeared to stand for something so different. It was so far out of his depth we could pin all our mistakes on you and get the Belobrats back into power for good that way.
You lying two-faced so-and-so, I spat at Bob. He just grinned.
Don't insult me, Eleron. Free-faced, please.
And you went along with it? I asked Horace incredulously. I know you to be many things, Horace, but not a cheat. He shrugged.
Halfway that's got to live. I have a few bills to pay at home, and other things. Anything for a quiet life, really.
I was still struggling to take it all in. But you all said you liked me, I ended pityingly, turning to the rest of the room. Horace sighed in a very Eleron way, as if he had been taking lessons from me.
I asked everyone to pretend they liked you, to let everything run smoother. And then when you were in your office dealing with all the boring stuff, or talking to dignitaries that none of us wanted to do, we were busy getting on with the real job of saving the universe, under my direction, or Bob's.
No, I said, shaking my head. We're a team, a genuine team, a good team.
We were,
said Bob.
And you played your part in it well, even if it was a very different part to the one you thought you were playing. But your role is over now, Eleron. You can go on your fool's errand if you want, or even tell the universe about our plan if you want to. It won't do you any good. Or you could remain here and quietly keep taking your salary if you agree to stay out of sight. Whatever you choose, doesn't matter much to me.
I looked around me at some very shifty-looking aliens. Is this all true? I asked, and found 6 nodding heads looking back at me. Why did you all go on with it then, if you knew it was all a facade? Why let me take power at all? Horace paused and then continued, more kindly than before.
Because I like you, Eleron. Heck, I even like your vision for the universe, as impractical as I know it to be. Oh, I resented you at first and thought this idealism thing was all an act to win this job, and then just do what everybody else does. Give up when it gets a bit hard, earn enough money to retire somewhere nice, and throw a few bribes around to make life easier for your own species. I could have coped with that. I might even have bought the island next to you to retire on. We could have spent our old age chatting about all the suckers who voted for us. It turns out that you're different to what I thought, though, Eleron. The more time I spend around you, the more I realise that you mean what you say, even if what you say is clearly hopeless. I mean, that idea that all of our 10 species can live in harmony and work together for the good of everyone. There's no chance of that happening anytime soon. There are just too many differences between us, too many obstacles to overcome. The best we could hope for is to keep everyone away from each other's throats a little longer. I would hate to see you hurt while out tackling something you have got yourself over your head in. So what say I'll officially note that there might be an Earth invasion in my log, take over on a more official footing, and leave it at that.
No, I said quietly. Earth might need me. As hopeless as I may be, I need to try to solve this crisis, if only for myself. It's what I was elected for, after all, however false I now know that election might have been. Horace shrugged his familiar Habrodat shrug.
Suit yourself,
He said.
Well, I'm sure you'll understand why I can't let you take any other peace delegate with you now. You'll no longer be on official business. I suggest you leave your wife here too. We'll look after her for you, till you return. Or not.
I nodded. I'll still ask her to come with me, though, I said. One last chance.
As you wish,
said Horace thoughtfully.
Of course, running off after a planet that's not in the IPO would mean resigning from your position. Though you would still be able to go as a diplomat, all right, and all our normal resources are available to you, such as they are. But I would have to take over officially from you and become the new president, regrettable as that might be.
Horace flashed an evil-looking smile at me. I never before realised just what steel was behind his laid-back nature, and inwardly shuddered. Very well, I said. Horace, you are hereby the new Intergalactic Peace President. I will sign anything you want me to. But I warn you, as you warned me yesterday, what happens to one world affects us all, and it doesn't matter if that world's in the IPO or not. Just one thing I ask of you. Please don't revoke my presidency until I've had a chance to get to Earth and talk. They might not listen to me as just an ex-president. Please give me just a little time to try. Horace nodded.
Very well. You have a few days. I will even adopt the foot sign by remote, so that whatever you do will be delayed a week, and you can do whatever you need to do off the record in order to get Earth back into the Union. However, then it will turn straight back on, and I will formally take up the presidential role I was born for.
He stared into the distance triumphantly, but then his stance softened, and he seemed more like the Habridat I'd come to know.
Take care of yourself, Eleron. I hope you make it back in one piece. I'm out of danger. I genuinely do.
With that, Horace turned and walked out the door, closely followed by Bob, leaving me staring at the faces of 9 very embarrassed-looking beings.
We're sorry, Eleron,
Said Jane.
we thought you knew.
Said
It's been fun working with you.
said Odebeggar.
It's been an episode of my existence, but on reflection it's been filled with considerable gratification,
Nodded Cody. Well, I said, forget what he said. I'm tired of him and Bob thinking they talk for the whole universe. Are any of you with me? There was another murmuring and some long faces, even from the species whose faces were genetically short. You don't have to decide now, I continued, but I would appreciate your help getting ready for my journey. I also propose stopping off at every other world along the way so that I can consult with as many world leaders as possible and give them warning of what is happening. It is only fair. I quite accept that none of you might want to come with me, but I have to ask you to do this, and do it myself. It is my duty. Hopefully I will be back soon to lead you again, legitimately this time.
Well said, Eleron.
Cried her,
You're so very brave.
said Jane.
The aforementioned creature is hereby declared the right and honourable winner of our affections, this decidedly the rightful Intergalactic Peace President,
Declared Cody.
No, it is rightfully so, but you should go.
Exclaimed Moldofus, and as the longest sentence any of us had ever heard him speak, it rather took us by surprise. I noticed Airglow hovering quietly in the background and rushed towards her, hoping that she would still be in the good mood she'd been in earlier.
Seriously?
She pouted, for real this time.
You would rather leave me on some idiot planet when this incident has nothing whatsoever to do with the IPO? And I'm not even the president's wife anymore, but a has-been.
I wrapped my wings around her and tried to soothe her by pressing my forehead to hers in the traditional Mrasian manner, but she wasn't having any of it and backed away from me. No, of course I don't want to leave you, I replied. I want to stay here and bury my head in the sand like all the others. But this is my job now, for better or worse, and you can come with me. I would greatly value your help. Airglow gulped.
I wouldn't have let you take the role if I knew it meant putting yourself in danger. I thought it would be a nice cushy role.
Only the way the Belobrats did it, not the way I want to do it, I said laughingly. Like every job, it's easy if you do as little as possible, and hard work if you do it right. Please come with me. You could see every world with me that way, I whispered. It might also help us get closer again, like we used to be. This, however, was the wrong thing to say.
Go then if you're going,
said Airglow, storming up the stairs into our room, slamming the door behind her. I resolved to go back to see her later, but first there were things to get ready.
Universal entry, pause, AB5 449 364 9170. ROS Universal Systems Key Code, acting President Eleron. Headline, Mission to Earth. Retrieved from the Universal Records Office.
I could feel the question, were they right, beating a quadlibet in the back of my head as I tried to work. But I did my best to banish it there until I was ready to deal with it, as for now I had far too much to do. So I kept myself busy, running around all the departments, gathering what I might need, while my former colleagues looked on in increasing varieties of regret. Some of them helped me, some of them pretended to ignore me, some looked on sadly without being quite sure what to say to me, and some tried to argue with me before they caught the determined look in my eye and looked away. All the while I was working furiously, collecting files only found on the Decreeta Interuniversal, detailing what we knew about the other side of the universe that we had always thought so dormant, along with food, governmental passes, and bits of spare Mechion technology I thought might come in useful, including a portable navigator so I could find my way around the universe. At one point, Horace tried to slip me a weapon to take with me to keep me safe, but I knew that it would probably do little good in the end, and I really wanted to live up to my mantra and give peace a chance. Plus, as a soon-to-be non-official, I knew this might get the Dewsbury Giant into trouble, and I really didn't want that. I was genuinely fond of my colleagues, well, most of them. After what seemed like 100 trips between the various offices and the IPO front door, I was doing a last sweep of my office to make sure I had everything I could possibly need. I felt exhausted, drained, worried past any limit I had ever reached before, and working on automatic pilot. I had always known this job was going to be a hard one, but I'd never, in my worst nightmares, expected to be doing it alone. And this despite the fact that I had an audience at last, instead of being sequestered in the tiniest room on the planet. Everything weighed on me, though. Nothing had prepared me for the sheer intensity of trying to keep so many people safe, and knowing it was my fault if I messed up, or worse, abandoned people through my inertia. Horace walked in just as I was finishing, interrupting my thoughts.
Some good news at least, sir.
He said, pausing on my last word, as if unsure whether to use it or not.
Our ship that was borrowed for the Hybrid Dewsbury match. It was returned to us last night. I've given it a once over, and it seems to be in good enough condition to take off again now, so at least you will be a bit faster on your journey than we thought. I like how, at my request, programmed it with every planet's coordinates for you might need. You might even find one or two foosballs left over as a souvenir. I filled it up with Clandestine solar fuel too, so there should be enough to get you to Earth, perhaps a couple of planets more if you're careful. It looks as if you might get your trip around the universe after all.
Thank you, Horace, I said. We may have had our differences, and I'm not at all happy about what's been happening here, but I know the IPO is in safe hands with you. Maybe that's the way around it always should have been. Me, working for you. The Habridat grinned at me.
I think so too, sir. Oh, sir, a word of advice. You might want to tone down your thoughts. We've been hearing reports on the Universal, sir. They say that you seem a bit unhappy in your personal readings. The last government found it beneficial to pretend that everything was all right all the time, sir. That way people weren't as scared. Keep as much of this information about an invasion to yourself as possible.
I should have learned not to be shocked by now, but I was. My goodness, people deserve to be scared, and they have a right to know. If these reports are true, it might be the end of everything, for all of us. There's still hope, though, if I can get there on time and negotiate. That's what they should be picking up on those blinking universal readings, the importance of us all working together, right now.
I don't understand, sir.
Well then, this is maybe the last thing I tell you as your president. Listen carefully. This whole election with the new look IPO was meant to be about transparency, right? At least in the eyes of the voters. That's what all of us campaigned for in different ways, Bob aside. Well, enough lying to the cameras and pretending we have the answers to all their problems without trying. I want the universe to see what the job of maintaining peace is really like. I don't want them to see us effortlessly grinning with all our fur in place and looking in control while we eat banquets surrounded by flags. I want them to see the blood, sweat and tears that go into keeping the universe going, and how much we do care about our work here. Some of us, at least. I don't want them to hear us pretending everything's fine when it isn't. I want them involved in the decisions, to see what really goes into keeping 10 very different species happy. I want people to know the risks involved, that if we don't find a way to solve this problem, we might not get a second chance. I don't want them thinking this is our problem, not theirs, and they don't need to ever think about politics again. I want them to feel involved, to know how their decisions affect other species. We should be central to their way of life, not stuffed away on a backwards planet.
Sir?
Horace raised an eyebrow. I sighed. How do you still manage to remain so unflappably calm? This might be the end of the universe as we know it. Horace shrugged.
If it is, it is. And there's nothing you or I can really do about that. I figure if it's something that can work itself out, then it will. And if not, then staying calm and not rushing around won't make it worse. It might just make it better.
Horace paused, as if wondering whether to offer up some last advice or leave me be. Finally he spoke.
Now it's my turn. For my last bit of advice to you, as your Vice President, from days of closely watching you work. You know your problem, Eleron?
Horace said, not giving me long enough to think and answering for me.
You work too hard.
Yeah, well, I said half bitterly, sorting through a last lot of papers. Somebody has to. The universe is in my care. That's where I thought having you as a Vice President came in, that we could become our best selves together by having your more relaxed view of the universe alongside mine. But I see I was mistaken. Horace put his hand on my wing.
The universe was here before you,
He said.
The universe will be here long after you. The universe is bigger than you, even bigger than the Belobrats, but they don't like to think of it that way. That's why we considered your ideas of the universe impossible. It was nothing personal. Give up trying to fight what isn't yours to solve, and just go with the flow.
I stare at him uncomprehendingly for a few minutes. But how can I? These people need protection. I couldn't sleep at night if something preventable happened to any of them on my watch, whatever species they were.
But you don't sleep anyway, Eleron. I hear you pacing around your room all night.
I'm an insomniac, and one that's spent far too many nights on the sofa for comfort lately. It seems to be a common feature of Humrasianart, so I'm told. Now there are a few more of us to study. Too many feelings, too many thoughts, all rolled up into one mind that strives too far for perfection and worries when it can't reach it.
That explains a lot. Well,
said my companion, giggling.
You know what the best cure for insomnia is, don't you?
No, I said eagerly.
Good night's sleep.
Horace said, laughing.
Get some rest on the shuttle. It's quite comfy. Don't wear yourself out. The universe could do that for you if you're not careful.
How I wish I could be like you, I said, staring back at him, slumped comfortably in my chair, as if he was an alien. Though I must admit that talk of sleep did sound good right now. Taking time off from work, resting, not caring 5418 as we say on Mars.
Then why don't you?
Said Horace.
It's not hard. Not like it is for me to be you, and I don't know how.
Because I'm me, I said. Believe me, it's much, much harder for me to switch off than it is for you to switch on. And the universe made me like this for a reason. I just have to work out what that reason is. We're just very different, you and I, that's all. And why not, indeed? It is a big universe, after all. If you'd grown up on Mars, though, then you would understand me more.
And you would understand me if you'd grown up on Habridas,
said Horace.
You know, Eleron, I came to Mars once. On a visit. A long time ago.
You did? I asked incredulously.
Oh yes,
He said.
I wanted to see what it was like. So many people on my world told me that I was so driven and ambitious I ought to travel to your world to be around people who behave like that all the time. So I did.
And what did you think? I asked, intrigued.
I didn't understand it at all.
Horace said, laughing.
Everyone seems so serious and intense all the time, as if the universe was theirs to save and theirs alone. They didn't seem to get my jokes, or understand my need for that, or do anything at all without thinking and agonising over the decision for days on end. This is a bit of a waste of energy to me. I still appreciated it though, how different the people were. I learned a lot, and in its own way, I rather liked it. I admired that drive that people had, a desire to push themselves and do better, for the sake of everyone, not just themselves. That was refreshing after all my years on Habridas. I got some rather good advice there once too, and I saw myself for what I was.
His voice trailed off.
I was so glad to get home again though, back to people who weren't so lost inside their own heads, who talked to me and laughed, sometimes, who shared my view of the world, and everyone in it was utterly absurd and something to be mocked and not fought against. So you see, Eleron, I do understand our differences, even if I don't always approve of some of them. I'm sure it's the same with you though.
Well, I said, now that you've pointed this out, I'm desperate to work together with you more, to work with each other rather than against each other, coming at ideas from our different ends of the spectrum. For what is politics, if not negotiation?
Too late, suddenly, Next lifetime, maybe, if we end up the same species.
Smiled Horace, walking away.
Oh, and in case you hadn't noticed, you're overthinking again.
But that's my job, I said sadly as I watched him go. To think, so that others don't have to. But was it for much longer? What was I doing? And could I do it on my own? The faster shuttle commandeered back from the Belobrat, who would still get to Ziggurat's for him, plenty of time for their match, I noted. Ready, supplies from the food replicators packed and stored away, and coordinates for Earth programmed. I returned one last time to IPO HQ to say goodbye to everyone. Most of my staff looked sad, and even Horace looked a little guilty. The gaze that cut me most, though, was Airglow's. She stood at the bottom of the stairs to our apartment, her free arms folded.
So, Eleron, who's it going to be?
She said.
Who matters more to you, me or the universe? It's time to choose.
Not like this, I said desperately. I have to choose the universe, or for all I know, you won't get to exist in it anymore. I need to at least go to Earth and see for myself what's happening. Who knows, I might be able to stop it before things get out of hand. Airglow snorted. Come with me, I said. You said you wanted to travel.
Yes,
She said.
but not to Earth. That's at the bottom of my list. I can't believe you'd rather go to some backwater that isn't even under your jurisdiction than go somewhere nice with me.
Of course I'd rather be somewhere nice with you, I said helplessly. But Earth is where the problem happened to be, and solving problems is my job right now. Please, I've packed enough provisions for two. It would be like the olden days, when it felt like us against the universe. It can be us against the world again. It's lonely alone. It's better together.
No,
Said Airglow simply.
seriously, what can you do? One lone member of two of the smallest species there is? Forget it, Eleron. The Earth is over. If you want anything from it to survive, then protect yourself, so at least your half genes might continue after the Earth is gone. Plus, if this is as serious as you seem to think it is, then you have no chance of fixing it, do you? I mean, I'm the bravest, most courageous and brilliant person I know, and even I don't think I can do this, so I'm afraid you've got no chance.
Maybe, I sighed. You're probably right. But I feel better trying over there than watching everything go wrong from here. Please come with me. You're braver and bolder than me, it's true. I need you. But Airglow shook her three heads in tandem.
No. Part of being brave is knowing when to pick your battles, and this isn't one of them. Goodbye, Eleron. And don't expect me to be here when you come back.
No, we can't end like this. Not after all we've been through, I said desperately. Airglow shrugged in an annoyingly Habradat way.
You've obviously made your choice.
I hovered in the doorway, still hoping that she would change her mind.
Go on then, if you're actually going. Makes no difference to me what you do. I have no feelings for you anymore. We're over.
Mournfully, I picked up the last of my luggage and headed to the door. I caught a look at myself in the mirror as I left. It must have been one of those distorted ones put in by the Belobrat, or maybe it was the perspective. As suddenly I seemed the bigger person, standing taller even than my wife.
You weren't meant to actually do it.
Airglow hissed, running upstairs in the distance. I studied her reflection in the mirror, getting smaller with every step. I thought about running after her, but what good would it do? It would only end in another conversation like this one, and time was of the essence. So miserably I walked on, closing the door on my political career and the love of my life both, knowing they might only ever be opened again if I succeeded in the mission, but, according to what I'd just been told, I was most unqualified to take. As the shuttle took off and flew over the headquarters, I caught a glimpse through our window of Airglow sobbing her heart out once more, while in the window below, the staff of the IPO mingled around, looking a little lost. I'd worked so hard in building up a team and was just beginning to trust them, wrongly as it turned out. But here I was all on my own, not quite sure of where I was going or what I was going to do, but feeling extra specially small that night against the infinite darkness of the night sky. It may have just been the fog on Decreeta, but tonight even the stars seemed to have gone out. The Agrosians were now walking through London landmarks, but had got confused somewhere around Baker Street.
This isn't the way.
Squeaked Josh,
Elementary.
said Queen Calixta with icy understatement.
These alien streets and their names and markings make no sense. There's clearly a method of avoiding being conquered and to put invaders off. But we're not going to let an underhanded trick like that get in our way. These Earth creatures are clearly highly sneaking and afraid of a straight fight, and will thus be easy to annihilate. Where do these fools keep their leaders? They should be in a grand high tower like we have at home, with huge signposts lighting up the way to them, so that all citizens might bow their heads and quake in awe, not dwell in some tiny hovel. You're obviously in the presence of some very primitive life form.
The Agrosians all nodded.
The odd thing is, though,
said the Queen, pondering as she stood in the middle of the road and glared down a giant red bus that made her minions run away gasping in fear.
The translator circuits all seem to be working, and clearly come from a civilization more evolved than this one. I expected the Earth to be a mere colony of these greater beings, who subconsciously sent that message out in the hope of calling out to a higher power to overthrow them. But instead, the influence of these more intelligent outsiders seems to have barely touched the planet. We would be making far greater use of these resources if it were us. It's almost as if this civilization used to be part of something, and unified, progressive, and wonderful, and yet turn their backs on it for their own selfish ends. How strange these human creatures are.
A strange assembly turned round a corner. All the humans had passed them, backing away in fright.
Ah,
Said Queen Calixta, suddenly stopping at a sign.
Regent's Park. Well, according to these primitive translator circuits, a regent is a person ruling when a monarch is not available. This must mean we are going the right way.
As she led troops through the gates into the greenery, which she viewed with distaste.
Oh, nature,
She said.
I'm so glad we got rid of it on our planet millennia back. It serves no useful purpose. Come, Hive, let us explore. And don't be afraid to annihilate anything that gets in your way or looks at you strangely.
Universal entry, pause, baby 54493649188. Brass Universal Systems key code, acting, President Eleron. Headline, Mission to Earth 2, retrieved from the Universal Records Office.
I woke up from where I had slumped over the shuttle controls and slowly, painfully, tried to piece together where I was. Looking out the window at the constant darkness of space, I could have been anywhere, but according to the controls I was actually not that far from Earth and cruising at a fair speed. Such a triumph for both Clandestron and Mechion technologies to get me here in a 50th of the time it would have taken my parents. I wanted to yell at the universe in general, and Earth in particular. This is what happens when we work together and benefit from what each of us can do well. It makes life so much easier than cutting ourselves off from each other. Things were far from easy now, though, and I tried to go back to sleep, willing the constant darkness to consume me again. But too many thoughts were playing round my head. There was a million things swirling round in there, all mixed up, as if someone had taken a shelf full of memories and thrown them on the floor at random, so they all stared up at me, overlapping. Golden memories of meeting Airglow for the first time, after talking to her inside my head, of having such fun playing with my parents, playing with the Intergalactic Peace Orchestra, my election to the Peace League on Mars, feeling so proud of those election results, walking into the headquarters with Airglow, my ex-colleagues' faces as they stared at me as I walked out the door, a look of disdain on Airglow's face as I left. So much of it was lies now, I realised. My win was under false pretences. Maybe my marriage had been under false pretences too. It wasn't just my present that seemed all messed up. I felt as if everything I had known and worked for since childhood had been taken away from me, so that I could never think of them the same way again. I realised, been so privileged in my life up to this point, to have been surrounded by so many of the people I loved. But now, for the first time I could remember, I was truly alone, and I was lonely. For the first time in a long time, I reached out to hear the telepathic hybrid voices that had murmured away so constantly in my head as to be the soundtrack of my childhood, which I had all but forgotten since I no longer needed them, and could talk to my loved ones directly. But no, it was like a switch had been thrown. They were all gone, every one of them. I stared at my reflection in the shuttle visor, desperately willing somebody else to apparate alongside me, even vainly hoping to see Airglow or my FPO colleagues flying past me in a shuttle, offering to help at the last minute. But no, this wasn't a story. Instead, all I could see was a tiny, puny Humrasianart framed by the vastness of space. A being who had nothing anymore, no job to go back to, surely no wife to return to. Perhaps if my worst fears were confirmed, no rest of my life to recover everything either. Who had I been kidding in thinking I could handle events so far out of my control? Why had I ever set myself up for such a position as being the de facto president of the whole universe? Was everything Bob had said to me about my unsuitability and arrogance right? Would I be better off giving up my mission and flying to my home on Mars instead? But no, I couldn't go back there either. It felt as if every being I had ever loved or believed in or trusted had let me down, or worse, that I had let them down somehow, for being too trusting, too naive, too hopeful, too idealistic and unrealistic. The only option for the future, the only chance I had from now on, was to harden my heart, to adjust to this new and wanted reality, and lose the hopeful, trusting person I was. The universe didn't need him anymore. Of Horace's last words running round in my head, I couldn't even lose myself in the tonic of overthinking. Was I guilty of that, as he said? Was this what lay behind all my problems? Followed by a worry that Horace had been right in everything else he had said to me, that I was too idealistic for my vision of the universe to make sense. Well, obviously he was right in this at least, for I was overthinking even this sentence right now. But was any being capable of thinking too much? Was that what was to blame for the problems between me and Airglow? Was that why I had been seen as a soft touch by the other aliens at the IPO? Was that the problem behind the whole universe? That too often we run on logic and drive and purpose and need, rather than being content to live in the moment. But no, it was working on pure instinct that had caused so much chaos in not just Mraz's past, but everyone's. And that couldn't be the way that species were meant to live and coexist. I was sure of that. But what could I do about it? The best path seemed to be to have a little of everything at once, to treasure your memories of the past without letting them confine or define what you did next, of celebrating the moments that passed right in front of your eyes and making the most of them without trying to repeat them, of planning for a future that may or may not come, but doing it in pencil so that it could be changed. But no species was ever equipped to do all these things at once. The best we could do was to learn from each other how and make the most of it all. That was only the surface of what I was thinking, though. Behind it, I could feel the thoughts tugging away at me, the self-centered ones that cared less about the universe than they did about me. That everyone I had ever trusted had let me down, that everything I once thought was solid had been stripped away to nothing, that I might never trust anyone ever again. But all these events were conspiring to make me harden my heart forever, become like everyone else, a cynical realist who realised how ruthless and uncaring the universe could be, and a part of me still bitterly resented that happening. Hate and war couldn't win, could it? Not when I had so much love to put into my calling of peace. I had been so very sure I was right, as sure as any Belobrat. Despite everything, the universe was still my friend, wasn't it? Desperately, I tried to convince myself that this turn of events somehow fitted into the plans of the universe much bigger than me, which, as a half Mrasianart, I had always trusted in unquestionably. Somehow, though, in this tiny shuttle, framed against so much darkness and far away from the light of my loved ones, for the first time ever in my life, I doubted it. Exhausted, I stared out the window into the nothingness outside, but so much the nothingness in my head, occasionally jotting down a few notes of what to say, before I found myself nodding off again, lulled by the constant hum of the engines. So far from home, so alone, in so many ways. Having blazed most of Regent's Park to the ground, the Agrosian hive continued on to Downing Street. "This is where the Earth President lives," said Queen Calixta. "You're not messing with me, are you?" she added to the frightened Earth creature. She held in her grasp, who promised that she wasn't.
Very well,
said Queen Calixta, pushing away through the security, who all gazed up in shock at her enormous frame.
take me to your leader.
"No, look at that," said the guard. "They're so cute and fluffy and tiny and... Ow!"
Looks to me perceptive,
said Gosh, jabbing with his spear.
It's a good job for your kind that we are here on business. If I had my way, I would stab you all much harder than that. And he isn't joking,
added Josh for effect, standing up as tall as he could and trying to look threatening.
Not very well guarded,
said Wash, walking closely behind her.
Their weapons are a joke,
said Kosh, as he picked up a security guard and flung him to the side after first confiscating and studying his gun.
Shall I sit on them all, O Queen?
asked Squash.
Show by hide where your leader is kept,
said Queen Calixta, and a nervous aide opened the door and pointed towards a giant fridge, whereupon Kosh opening the door, Queen Calixta found Doris Johnson, quaking inside.
Are you Earth's great leader?
She asked.
No, cried Doris, you heard it wrong. I'm not a great leader, I'm a great breeder. Just like my granddad Boris. I've ever so many illegitimate children. Just look at my Wikipedia page where it says I have 9 or 10 or 11 of them.
Aha!
Snorted the Queen as she sized up the Prime Minister.
I know a lie when I hear one. This world has cowardly rulers who are clearly not fit for battle. This will be easy, but not, I fear, from your point of view, painless. Now here is your choice. Sign over your planet to me officially, and then choose to either surrender to us as our slaves, or die in pain en masse. We're not fussy.
A worried Doris opened her mouth, but nothing came out.
Let me try again,
sneered Queen Calixta.
Where is this Chuck Berry who sent us such lovely music on the space shuttle you sent us? You could have all the other musicians exterminated. I didn't care for them at all. They were nearly as bad as the Spice Girls, and I wouldn't inflict them on our worst enemy.
Doris continued to gape.
I don't know what you mean,
stammered Doris, who had never had much time for music. One of the many reasons why she was such an ignorant, selfish, stupid, heartless leader.
Maybe you should ask the IPO. I hear they have a peace orchestra, but I don't like it much myself.
Music? Used for peace?
frowned Queen Calixta.
Oh well, I can wait. Are you sure you're the ruler of this world? Is there no one bigger or more important that I should be meeting with?
Doris thought for a moment and nodded.
Yes, she squeaked. I'm no one, not important at all. Earth is a nothing planet filled with losers. I'm only the leader of this tiny country, really. We just take it in turns who gets to be Earth president around the globe, and this year it's me, even though I'm incredibly unsuited to the job. But there's a group, the International Peace Organisation, who rule our 10 inhabited planets, and we have true power over everything on Earth, really, honest, and all the other planets and species, and even hybrid species.
10 species? Plus hybrids?
asked Queen Calixta thoughtfully, as Doris nodded her head up and down so vigorously it looked as if it was about to fall off. So there were 10 planets to invade. When she took them in one go, as she surely would, that would make her an even greater conqueror than her ancestors, she thought to herself. The record books would all show that she was the greatest ruler Agrosia ever had. This idea of hybrid species alarmed her, though. Admittedly, all true-blood Agrosians had carried the DNA of their chosen colonised worlds with them ever since their kind had nearly died out in the great COVID plague of 568975. But as each partnering species was only ever used for the pairing ones, that kept the bloodlines as pure as could be.
This is all interesting news. 10 whole alien planets to turn into slaves, and new species to be added to the royal bloodline. Do go on.
So Doris kept on prattling nervously.
You'll learn all you need to know on Decreeta, not here. Go and invade them. I mean, talk to them, not me. They live there. Go quickly to them. Now, here are the coordinates.
And with jangling hands she wrote something down and handed it to Queen Calixta. On reading this, the Queen ordered the quaking guards outside to bring her the Earth's next most senior member. As it happened, all the cabinet had chosen this moment to go away on holiday to the Costa Packet Islands, so the highest person still in the building was a secretary named Geraldine, the granddaughter of an Earth politician who would have been an elected leader himself had his own party not sabotaged itself in panic fear of socialism. An Earth official was sent to get her, and after reacting with shock at the message, Geraldine walked into the cabinet room as calmly and courageously as she could. She was, by Earth standards, ordinary, nothing special. She had just the one head and only one heart, but both were big enough to have seen her rise through the ranks of earthly politics quickly. Even if her lack of posh education had led to a ceiling, even she hadn't been able to break through. So there she had been, for the past few years, wasting her brain by working as a sort of underused secretary, telling people with less abilities where to go, and who to see, and what to say. However, Geraldine had found her calling, becoming a calming presence to those around her in the middle of so much chaos. In keeping with the way she had lived her life till then, instead of getting panicky upon hearing talk of alien invasion and a newfound responsibility, Geraldine merely stood up, walked as tall as she could into the cabinet room, and looked up at the ginormous Queen as she came in through the door, both of them staring each other out, with their arms folded.
Are you the next in command of Earth after this quivering wreck?
asked Queen Calixta, pointing a crown at Doris lying in a heap on the floor. Geraldine nodded. For now, she said quietly.
Then know this, Earthling. We will be back presently, as soon as you're true leaders of this peace.
Calixta stuttered on this word, but was clearly so alien to her.
Organisation have surrendered themselves to me, according to the rules of the Agrosian Hive Proclamation. By the time I come back, I want to see your military formally ready to accede to me, and your people lined up for inspection, so we can choose which we want for our slaves. Now, and if you're thinking of organising a resistance, a word of encouragement, please do. We have more than enough weapons for my 10 hive members to take down a planet of this size. Although it might be time-consuming, it will also be a lot of fun. What's more, it will help pass the time and show me what you are capable of on this side of the universe. Although...
And Calixta's voice turned into a sneer here.
If you're ruled by a peace organisation, I don't suppose your attempts at war will be up to much. And we are taking your leader with us, so she can always surrender to us when she is finished being useful, and the claim on your planet will still stand. That is all.
Geraldine pulled herself up to look as tall as she could, and, without quite looking Queen Calixta right in the eye, told her, "You won't get away with this, you know. The universe is very, very big, and you are very, very small. In the grand scheme of things, at least." Queen Calixta laughed merrily at this, dwarfing Geraldine as she did.
Oh, feisty alien! I'd almost forgotten what you were like. I'm going to enjoy conquering you. I thought this
She shook Doris to make a point.
was going to be the level of your resistance. Strange, your planet seems to have got its rulers and staff the wrong way round. Well, I guess I shall see you soon, Earthling. Briefly. Bring her!
Snapped Queen Calixta to a hive, and they quickly rushed around, until quickly Doris was knocked out by Kosh and trussed up by the others. As one, they all marched their way back out the cabinet room the way they had come, while Geraldine stared at them and watched them go, as icily as she could. On the front steps of Downing Street, Queen Calixta planted a huge Agrosian flag into the ground and stared at the gathering throng of curious onlooker humans before reading from a long scroll made from a parchment that had never been seen on this side of the universe.
Planet Earth, as of this day going forward, you are now the property of the planet Agrosia, pending admin, and will henceforth become our slaves. Those of you who defy this order will be annihilated, without warning.
Just then an angry human wearing a hat with horns on it and emblazoned with the word Brexit started yelling at the top of his voice about how his planet was better than any tin pot alien invaders' world, and was suddenly and violently disintegrated, without a second thought, by Kosh. Queen Calixta continued, without missing a beat.
We are taking your planet leader with us for negotiations, and I'll wait your real leaders at the International Peace Organisation. On our return, if your planet hasn't yet been handed over to us, then we will demonstrate our powers to you. Later we will divide your planet up and take its mineral and energy stocks. The humanoids will then be divided up into those who are useful to us for continuing to provide what we need, those who will be useful slave labour on our home planet, and those who will be disintegrated. You are clearly inferior beings. I advise you to be smart, Planet Earth. You are clearly no match for our superior firepower. This will be the 111th planet, satellite or colony we have conquered, and our colonisation procedure never ends well for the opposition. Dismissed.
With that, Queen Calixta turned round to a hive, and they chimed as one.
Wow, what is it good for? It's good for getting more. The Great Air rules.
Before marching across London to where their shuttle had been parked.
Universal entry, pause, 8854493649188. Browse Universal Systems key code, acting President Eleron. Headline, mission to Earth 3, retrieved from the Universal Records Office.
I was woken from my slumber, just out of Earth's orbit, by a very flashing-looking pair of space shuttles that seemed to be made of pure gold and glittered away as they flew either side of me, causing my tiny craft to shudder and seesaw in the wake of their currents. Both of them were glitzy affairs full of advertisements for products that seemed useless and impractical to my eyes. After all, the amount of extra jet fuel that was being used just to power the thing out of Earth's orbit must have been colossal. Barely enough to cover the extra cells it created, I would have thought, and a huge slap in the face to the inhabitants below, who were paying exorbitant amounts for these goods, but was still a drop in the ocean compared to the cost of keeping this averted ship up here. Well, this wasn't the picture of Earth that I had in my mind's eye. If they had money to waste like this, both on the rockets themselves and the things being advertised relentlessly on them. In comparison to the other 9 known worlds in the universe, Earth was known to be one of relative poverty and hardship, with no resources left for sheer waste like this. Of course, things had once been worse, as I knew from my mother's tales of growing up there, where both the lifespans of the locals themselves were unlucky, outdated and short. Thankfully, the brace of off-world technologies, particularly Clandesprod and Mechion, had helped take away many of the Earth's biggest problems: pollution, global warming, poor life expectancy, and a lack of comfort. And due to its natural beauty and its differences with the rest of the universe, Earth had in fact become a much-loved tourist retreat in the past 200 years. However, there was no getting away from the fact that, economically, socially, and politically, Earth was always seen as the sort of place you loved to visit, but were glad you didn't have to live on. Ah, not for me though. I'd spent my life hearing stories about Earth and dreamed about it at night, wondering what my ancestors on my mother's side were like, and poring over everything the Universal had on the universe's most obscure inhabited planet. Even before I was in double digits, I had memorised its greatest politicians, scoured over pictures of its fascinatingly varied continents, and read up every line on its ever-changing history. Not to mention Earth's most comprehensive music website, Alan's Album Archives, now on its 78th billionth review. Before long, I had felt as if I had known it as well as my home on Mars, which, though light years ahead in terms of evolution, felt like quite a boring and rigid, unchanging planet by comparison. Once things had been fully healed during my childhood, Mars was the sort of place where only good and predictable things ever happened. Earth, though. Earth was still a planet where anything could happen, good or bad, and often did, frequently without warning. I dreamed of it for so long it felt utterly unreal to actually be going there, to see it up close at last in the shuttle's windows, as big in front of my eyes as it had seemed on the Universal's orrery that once hung on my bedroom wall, a present from former Mrasian President Almathea, who had left it to me in his will as a belated apology for everything he did to me and my family due to an imbalance of earthly alcohol, greed and power. Even from here, so far away still, I could see how beautiful this planet was with its mixture of brown and blue, so different to my own home world. It was only the 3rd planet I'd ever seen up close. For some reason it seemed more home than alien to me. I felt a strange pull from it beyond the effects of its gravity or magnetism, pulling me to its surface, calling me to where I always knew instinctively at the back of my mind I would end up one day. I parked the shuttle as best I could, too desperate to get on with my mission to find anywhere I was meant to land officially. Typically, given their isolationist stance of the past few centuries, the Earth didn't seem to have anything in the way of actual shuttle parks the way the other planets did. I couldn't see any other ships parked on the ground, so I merely went for a patch of earthly earth that seemed safe to land on. I knocked over a few statues of what my shuttle computer identified for me as lions, and some guy standing on a plinth looking fierce in a big hat, but as they were quite old, I thought nobody would mind too much, and, well, it was an emergency. Taking my portable ship's computer with me, I punched in the directions for Downing Street, where the current Earth headquarters apparently were, and rushed off as fast as I could, registering in my subconsciousness, for later, all the wild, weird and wonderful sights that greeted me here.
Universal entry paused AB5 44936499197. Browse Universal Systems Key Code. Acting President Eleron. Headline: Mission to Earth 4. Retrieved from the Universal Records Office.
I quickly discovered that everything I'd been told about this world was in fact true. It seemed to have been built up haphazardly, one generation on top of one another, and not at all like the planned, methodical, meticulous way of most of the universe. Even the Mars layout made some sort of logical sense, even if it was obvious the city planners had been having a lot of second thoughts and 1 or 2 existential crises during the final stages. Finding my way around the planet was really difficult, even with my ship's computer now portable and in my wings, and I had to stop several times to consult the natives, who were all much friendlier than my dealings with their politicians had led me to believe. I also discovered that the brightly coloured billionaire rockets were indeed the exception, not the rule, but although alien technology had been made freely available to the people, very few of the inhabitants had been allowed to make use of them. There was shocking inequality everywhere I looked. Mars was not what might have been called a prosperous planet. It didn't make money from the technology the way the Mechion 5 did, or energy sources the way Zigguris 3 did. It certainly didn't have the PR know-how the Belobrats on Helisphere. But everyone had as much as they needed to survive, and the chance for more if they were prepared to work for it. On Earth, though, even with the help from all the things the universe had to offer them, most people seemed to be struggling, surviving rather than thriving, making do rather than making things for the benefit of the universe, as the rest of us were comfortable enough to aspire to do. Dotted around the grey peeling slums that made up the majority of these Earthlings' houses, though, were buildings that towered over everything and everyone, creations that rivaled anything on any other planet, tall and majestic and bright and colourful. For some reason, though, these buildings clearly weren't made for comfort or shelter, but were largely impractical, either places where people toiled away making the poor amount of money that would let them live in these buildings' shadows, or mere empty ornaments to gaze up at, past bills and debt collector lorries. It all seemed patently unfair and backward for a universe that had grown up so much so recently. On my world, there would have been a revolt long ago against the people who owned such buildings. Indeed, the only one in my lifetime had come to dominate my childhood. But the Earthlings I encountered seemed resigned to it, giving me the impression that this was not a new occurrence, but one that had been ingrained generation after generation, and something they had long ago stopped questioning out loud. Even so, I felt their unfettered frustration coming from pretty much everyone I passed, and began to experience it myself too before meeting that many of them. The thought that, with just a tweak in currency and a minor redistribution of wealth, these humans could yet be as happy and as prosperous as anyone else in the universe. Why, I thought to myself, had no one done anything about this, the way they had on my planet and most of the others? But then I knew from my mum's tales and my own dealings with Earth leaders that tyrants in power tended to be the rule, not the exception, as they were with us. Finally I found my way and rushed toward Downing Street, which I recognised from Doris's speech. However, there was absolute mayhem at the scene, lots of security guards and policemen rushing around, humanoids standing in shock or wailing, and a media scrummage that made the Belobrat publicity drive look positively shy. "What's happened?" I asked a passing Earthwoman, who resembled my mum, and for all I knew was a distant member of my family. "They've taken Doris," she said, quaking. "Who?" I asked innocently. "These aliens. No offence, Offworlder, I know we're not meant to use the term anymore, but they aren't an alien race we'd ever seen before. They were short and stocky and red and covered in fur and fluffy and rather cute, apart from one really tall figure who seemed to be their leader." "Oh no," I said, my hope evaporating in that instant. "I've got here too late. I thought they would take much longer to reach Earth from the other side of the universe and from where they've first been spotted. Their shuttles are clearly much more advanced than ours. Do you know where they've taken Doris?" "Well," said the stranger, "according to an eyewitness, they've gone in search of the IPO. I don't quite know why. A bunch of layabouts they are, taking all our money off us. Doris is always telling us so. Wouldn't even let her into the IPO, apparently. Good on her for pulling us out of there." But, I stuttered, dumbfounded, yet prepared to ignore these insults and lies for now. "I've just come from there. I'm the IPO president." The Earthwoman looked at me, shocked. "Really? Aren't you a bit small?" she said. "I guess it's you they're really after now. I would get into hiding straight away if I were you. The chances are they're not going to look for you here. I'm afraid your friends are most likely toast by now, though." "What do you mean?" I asked, scared. "They were setting off to Decreeta so you could surrender all the planets over to them. There won't be much of your colleagues left soon, I shouldn't think. At least we're just going to be enslaved rather than obliterated, which, after all, is pretty much what we are now." "Not just my colleagues, my wife," I said, sobbing. "Her too. I've lost everything." The woman patted me on the back and, looking uncomfortable, moved off. An even bigger problem was staring me in the face, though. These aliens hadn't just settled for Earth and had been told enough to go to Decreeta, and they would know all about the intelligent life in the known universe. And then no one would be safe. No one at all.
Early Creation Times.
The Decreeta Times, Wednesday, September the 3rd, 2081. The Vice President's Vices. Today, in the fourth extract from our Meet the Team's newsletter, it's the turn of Vice President Horace. In this interview, he outlines his view of the IPO's future, his first week working with President Eleron, and drops a bombshell that this might be the last newsletter for a while.
Welcome to the Decreeta Daily, Horace, a new newspaper from the International Peace Headquarters. Are you having a peaceful day?
What? No, this might well be the least peaceful day I've ever had, to tell you the truth, Florence. I can't tell you what just yet, but I have this awful feeling I've just made the worst mistake in the universe. I was siding with a bad being over a good being, and now I don't know what's going to happen. If what the reports I've heard are true, I can't say more than that, but I need to know for sure. I pronounce hate not knowing.
How is the IPO holding up?
It isn't. Not now. Oh, I hope everything will be alright. Why did I sell myself for such a small thing? Witness me, I'm a very unhappy Habitat.
Horace, are you crying?
No, maybe.
I didn't think Haberdats had the ability to cry.
I didn't think so either. I thought it was just a human anomaly. Oh, it's weird. It feels like I'm leaking. Maybe no Habitat has never felt the need to cry before now. We lead laid-back lives of quiet relaxation. We're not cut out for all this stress. Certainly no one has ever seen what I've seen and done what I've done. I should have stayed behind with Habitats and never come to this wicked, wicked place.
So, how has the first week of the President Eleron been?
It was a golden, halcyon age, but the universe shall look back on with fondness as a missed opportunity. We failed him badly, though, all of us. If we live long enough to have regrets, this is the one we should take away with us. We should have believed in our leader, the way he believed in us.
And yourself? Do you have any plans for high office?
Why? What have you heard?
I was only asking. You did come second in the election, after all. We know how close to President Eleron you are.
Oh, right, yes. I have big plans, which are probably all for nothing now.
Finally, what's your favourite algebra?
My what? Oh, I don't know. What's the scary one with big fans called? I'd like to throw myself into its jaws of death right now.
Thank you for your time, Vice President.
Time? Huh? Time is the only thing any of us have now before we...